What's up, guys? Welcome to A Reseller's Life. My name will not be identified in this video because I'm going to give you guys the 20 best tips that big resellers do not want you to know. All these tips are also available in my free Facebook group, and they're not really a secret, so most resellers are very friendly and do help each other out. So join the group. It's called the Reseller Collective. Let's get straight into it. Tip number 1 from Oliver Crane is eliminate distractions during your workday. Keep your phone in a different room or put it on airplane mode. Make sure you let people that you know and care about that know what your schedule is. This is really important, so they know not to bother you a certain time of the day. Number 2 is from Brian Thomas. He says, hire out tasks that you don't like doing or you will burn out. I 100% agree with that. We just added a new unit. It's going to post all the job descriptions for all the different positions: listing, photography, sourcing, buying, whatever you need to do, somebody else can do it for you. All of that is basically crowdsourced information. This is like the Wikipedia of reselling. It's inside the Facebook group, which is called the Reseller Collective. Again, free forever. Okay, the next one is consistent growth over time is not sexy, but it's how 99% of resellers do it. So that's from Joseph Sanchez. I agree with that. That's why my channel is called Daily Refinement. Unfortunately, it is not sexy. All you have to do is just be better today than you were yesterday, and over the course of a year, you're going to crush it. Number 13, this is from Brooks. Create a consistent return policy. Create a process to inspect and relist each item. So what happens to a lot of people, including myself, is returns will come in, they just go into a pile and you don't deal with them. If you have a written out process for what to do, it's much easier. You'll notice that large companies actually have a separate division for this. You return items somewhere else. They're not going back to the initial spot where things are listed and sold fresh. They're being processed somewhere else. So that's interesting, having a completely separate PO box for that. I don't think that that's 100% necessary, but it is important to have a consistent return process so you don't get bogged down. The next one is number 5. List items in batches. This is very important and it keeps the momentum going. So this is from Keith Kritzelis. He lists between 10 and 20 items all at a time, and that can build momentum. It can be a really good habit if you have a listing habit of 5 items per day, 365 days a year. If it's $10 profit, that's at 20 grand. That's a lot of money that you can make from just a consistent habit. But imagine if you do it in batches of 5. As a reseller full time, you could knock that out by 7 o'clock in the morning and spend the rest of your day looking for items. So that consistent batching of listing is really important. People also do this with photography, listing. They do separate parts of their listing as well. Okay, the next one is create and batch similar items and templates to save time while listing. This is even more specific. This means when you're listing boots, maybe you already have a template saved for boot heel height, for the height of the shaft of the boot, the height of the leg opening on top for the calf opening, the shape of the toe. Maybe you have that template saved. That's going to save you time. That's from Jared Armitrage. Thank you for that tip. Next one is to keep track of spending on one credit card and keep track of revenue in one bank account. That's from Nakia Wilson. That is the easiest way to do accounting. You can just buy everything on your one credit card, withdraw all the money in the one bank account, give those 2 things to a bookkeeper and an accountant, and they'll do it for you. Literally, the IRS only cares about the total amount in and the total amount out. So thank you, Nakia Wilson. That is a simplified version of how to do this on the numbers side. Kyle Scott says, buy a thermal printer. I agree with this. If you are just getting started, I don't recommend doing this. Use whatever printer you have. But as you grow, thermal printers save a ton of time. And they actually, in my opinion, save money when you're at scale because they don't use any ink. Next one is source shipping supplies for free, either from the post office or local sales, schools, or businesses. This is from Joanne King. I agree. In the beginning, you should just be spending your money on inventory. Try to get as much stuff as you can for free. That's why I don't recommend beginners buy courses. If you are already making significant money and you want to buy coaching or consulting to get to the next level, that makes sense. Everybody does that. But when you're just getting started, just use your money to buy things to flip. Learn how to actually sell things. The next one is Try to knock out everything in 1 or 2 days. I like this advice. This is from a hobby seller, Karen Coleman. She's saying that if you spread the work out here and there, sometimes you're just not as consistent. For her, she actually gets all of her work done just Sunday. She just does Sunday reselling. And she's like, that gave her her whole life back because she didn't have to constantly babysit her business all week and try to squeeze in listings here or there. She just dedicated 1 day. Next one is from Alexander Rose. Shred waste paper to used for packing materials instead of throwing it away. I love it. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Sometimes people say, I can't wait to get enough money to buy, custom boxes. That's not necessary when you're first starting. Don't spend money on fancy packing slips. That's not going to matter. You want to deliver your item safely to the customer in the condition you described it. You don't need to spend money on over-delivering just yet when you're first starting. Next is really smart. Ahmed Taki is saying, avoid promoted listings when you first list items because you already get a bump in Cassini when you list a new item. I agree with that. If you have some aged inventory, it may be worth it to pay for premium exposure, but not for me. I agree with that. If you have some really old stuff that's not moving, if you pay for promoted listings, you will get a bump in traffic and maybe you can move it. That might be something you do instead of discounting the item. But for me, I would rather discount the item and let the customer get it for a better deal than give that money to eBay for no reason. It doesn't improve the customer experience when you give the money to eBay. They're basically forcing somebody to look at your item, which is, in my opinion, already not a good buyer experience because they didn't want to look for that item. eBay's shoving it in their face. But if they shove it, instead of shoving it in your face, you lower the price, it's just going to organically rank higher because it's a better deal. So that's really good advice from Ahmad Taki. Some people think they need to do promoted listings. In the beginning, you get a boost. Also, if you are running auctions, you get a boost at the end of the auction for free as well. Next tip is from Joseph Martinez. Meet collectors in your niche. This will open up buy, sell, and trade opportunities. Thank you, Joseph. Fantastic tip. I always recommend you collect whatever it is you're selling so that you can understand what it is. Collectors usually do not overpay. The reason would be if you know an item sells for $20 and it's easily found for $3 or $4, no one's going to be able to sell it to you for $9. No one's even going to be able to sell it to you for $7 if you know from experience that $3 or $4 can buy you that item. Next tip is from Tina Party. Provide measurements to reduce returns for clothing sellers. I agree. I also think it improves your sell-through rate. Beverly Sinclair says, style, features, and item specifics matter just as much as brand. Absolutely true. You'll see one of the top selling boots on eBay is not a name brand. They just do really well at item specifics. They're exactly the features that people want. The right color, the right features, the right measurements, the right purpose. It'll sell anyway. Remember to remove all tags before shipping items. Before you ship an item to a customer, if they get it and it shows the lower price on it, it's going to be a bad buyer experience. I agree with that. Thank you, Christy, for that tip. If you bought it for $40 and you sell it to somebody for $90 and they get it and they see that you paid $40, that's going to make them be a little bit annoyed. Although I understand how business works and I wouldn't be mad at the person for making profit. Some people think that business should be done at break even. So if you sold it to them for $90, they would appreciate it if you paid $90 or more for the item. That's just the world we live in. For Marianne Simmons, the first 4 hours are the most productive for her, so she uses that for listing. Fantastic. Do the hardest thing first, eat that frog. That's a really great book by Brian Tracy. If you guys want to pick up that book, I have my channel is sponsored by Audible, so you can pick up a free book if you haven't tried Audible before using my link in the description below, and you can get it for free. If you end up not liking Audible, you can just keep the book. Okay, next one is dedicated workspaces with a do not disturb sign. I like this because this is from Susan Bredner. Thank you for the tip. That's basically indicating to me that she works at home. So you don't want people bothering you when you're working. And when you physically leave, they kind of get it. They don't know. But if you're at home, they're like, hey, can you help me with my homework, or can you make me something to eat, or whatever kids' demands are at the moment. If they know you can't bother the parent when they're in there, then they just won't. There just needs to be rules set in place. I like that concept. Also, you want to actually, if it says do not disturb, person's working inside, when you go in, you're going to be more motivated to get that work done. Next tip is do not get mad at your customers. It's much easier and faster and more profitable to just assume responsibility for every single defect, fix it, and move on. Wow, Steven, that's like really punch in the face advice. For Steven, it's more profitable to just fix it and move on. I have this same mentality. I get returns every single day, between 1 and 5 returns every day. And I'm not going to write an email and call eBay for any of them because it just takes too much time. I'm just going to accept it and move on. And that's just the reality. You can do your best to reduce returns, and you can be a no return seller. But I don't see very many large sellers doing that. There are very few exceptions. If you sell very expensive, sought after items and you spend a lot of time, yes, maybe you can do a no return policy, but that's very rare. I do have 3 examples of that in my Facebook group, 3 stores in the photo section. Those 3 stores do not offer returns, and they do fine. But their listings are world class. If you offer a world-class listing, maybe you don't have to. But again, most people are just doing this for fun, or just doing it as a side hustle, and they're not providing an out-of-world experience. They're just presenting the item normally. In that situation, I would recommend you offer returns. Otherwise, you're going to not be able to sell to certain, like for myself, I'm not going to buy an item without a return policy on eBay. Most of the time, I'm worried about the item actually being what it is. So I want a customer, as a customer, I want the ability to return an item if it's not as described. And if there's no returns and I buy it and it's not as described, I'm going to force a return anyway. So that's just the reality. The last tip is, this is a great tip to end on. This is going to be my heaviest post in the Facebook group because I want every single member to post a tip in there. But the last tip for today is, if you are overwhelmed, just think about what you're going to do today or the next hour. Fear comes from worrying about the future. Procrastination comes from dwelling on the past. Stay present. This is from Rob Ponsford. So thank you, Rob. That's a really fantastic tip to keep people on course. Guys, if you find this information useful, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support this channel, I have a reseller field guide that's $35. It's in the description below. It's like the greatest hits of my videos, helping you build this up to a full-time income if you want that. That helps me continue to make videos. That's $35 with code YouTube. Or you can join the free Facebook group and just ask away. There are no stupid questions. Just make sure to try to not be vague. There's certain rules that you should read through when you join the group so that you can make best use of it. Almost every single question is already answered in the unit section, so search there first. But again, no one's going to bite your head off if you ask a question like, I'm really overwhelmed with shipping. I don't know whether to use a padded flat rate or a medium flat rate. Can somebody walk me through it? It's not going to be like, no one's going to bite your head off for that. I remember when I first started and I joined a group and I asked a question, somebody literally told me I should jump off a cliff basically if I couldn't figure out how to do something. So this group's not like that. It has all the levels of resellers in there. There are no secrets other than just consistently post over time. There's also a new accountability section, which is the most important part of reselling, which means you just show up every day, do what you're supposed to do. That's it. Pretty straightforward, guys. Everyone have a great day. And if you want to join the Patreon, that has a live call every morning. So I have office hours between 6 and 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're in the Patreon, you can jump in and ask me a question directly. Or if you want to chat about your goals or something more in depth, you can do that if you don't want to pay for coaching. So again, this is my final thought to end on. I don't have any issue with people paying for consulting or coaching. I kind of have an issue though for people paying for information, because most information is free, but you still may not know how to do it. So you may ask somebody a specific question, and that person's time is valuable. I just learned this from trying to develop a really good YouTube channel. I regret not going to Vid Summit because it was a really cool event, and it was at the same time as Posh Fest. In retrospect, I would have rather gone to this event because there was more information there on how to provide value. Posh Fest was okay, but it was more for hype. There wasn't that much instruction there. I want more instructional stuff. So one of the speakers reached out to me and said, Chris, it's cheaper for you to just hire the people that you wanted to talk to at the event for an hour or two of their time than spending $2,500 to $5,000 to attend the event. That's very true. Some of the guys are $500 an hour for consulting. I could hire them for 5 hours and answer my exact questions instead of going there and waiting in line to meet somebody for 2 minutes and really not really getting what I'm looking for and taking a whole week off. So again, I think it's important. Like if, getting your lock fixed when you lock yourself out of your apartment, you could just YouTube it and figure it out. Or you could pay $200 for a locksmith to come fix it for you immediately in less than an hour. So it's up to you. I don't think you should buy a course on how to unlock your door. That's going to take too long. So it just depends. Whatever you're trying to do, there is no right answer. And I appreciate you guys' time. And I want to just end on the fact that I appreciate everyone's time. I know people take valuable time out of their day to listen to these videos, and I'm just super grateful for that. Take care, guys.